The design you see here is destined to become a template, a base for all future designs for one particular landscape design company based in Europe. The space you see in front of you is delineated by some lines. Let's select one of those lines, and you can see it's 50 meters in length as I stretch down here a little, and that's 50,000 units rather, and so that square represents a space 50 meters by 50 meters. And if we move over to the right hand side here, you can see that the designer's placed some of his favourite symbols here ready to be used within the drawing. If we swing to layout space, here's a design for A3 in portrait, and notice that the tab has been labelled in that way, and here's A3 landscape. I'll turn off the grid, so there's a title block being put at the bottom of each of those sheets. So let's return here. Now this particular user's got a need for arranging the symbols in a certain way, and I'll try and demonstrate that now by bringing in one of the standard gCADPlus symbols. So let's just take one at random, one that'll stand out reasonably well. So we'll bring this one in and insert it into the drawing. We'll specify the insertion point as it goes in, and the scale will go in at a scale of 1 rather than specifying it on screen. But let's just tick that little box there. That will mean as we bring it in, we specify an insertion point, and then as we drag out, you can see the symbol increases in size. If you don't have that box ticked, the symbols will all come in 1 meter in diameter, and because we scaled that, you can see if I move in through here, that's 7 meter canopy diameter. But there is a particular need here for the layers to be simplified. If I come in here, a layer called L Plant Construction and a layer called L Symbols have been created in this drawing simply by bringing that symbol in. Now the thinking behind the gCADPlus symbols is that we can turn off the plant symbol layer and turn on the construction layer, and in comes, or unfurled or displayed, is just a circle with a cross in the middle, indicating that's where a new plant is going to go. So there is a method, if you like, behind the way in which these symbols have been designed. So let's turn the construction layer back off and the plant symbol layer back on. So the gCADPlus standard symbols have been designed with that sort of approach in mind. But if we look over here, let's examine one of the symbols that has been developed for this particular user, and we'll say we're going to edit the block, and no matter which part of this symbol I pick, it's on layer 0. So let me close the block editor. So what this particular designer wants is for all symbols that he uses and populates the template, he wants all symbols to have all of their parts, their entities, on layer 0. So how can you take a gCADPlus symbol and put it in that form? So we select it, edit the block, and then we can turn on our construction layer. So we're looking at all the elements of that block, and what he wants is for all of those to be changed and to be on layer 0. Now when we close the block editor, you'll notice in the layers, see how plant construction layer is grayed out. That means that we can click it and delete it, and then click it and delete it. And now this symbol follows, and let's move it over here, it follows his particular way of working. You'll also notice that this symbol here has been placed on a layer called Symbols. So now if we look at our layers here, there's only one layer called Symbols. So his symbol layer is going to work in pretty much the same way as the L Plant symbol layer worked. If I turn off that Symbols layer, you'll notice that all of the symbols that he's been working with are removed. Let's turn it back on, and we need to do a further change to this symbol here. Let's select it and the construction circle. Maybe what we might do is just edit it again, and it's confusing issues, I think, by having that in. We'll delete there and we'll close the block editor. That new symbol that we've added needs to be placed according to this system onto a layer called symbols. So let's have a look now in the blocks associated with this drawing. Here they are: 5 meter, Schal, Großdruck, Lichtdruck, logo, north, and so on. They're all the symbols that now meet this particular standard. You do have to keep your wits about you though. If, for the sake of argument, let's click in here and we'll have a layer called, for the sake of some other name, we'll call it Temp. Imagine that we have a layer called Temp and it's current. And imagine that I go to the blocks layer here and I say I'm going to insert this large shrub symbol into the drawing, and we pop it down and indicate the size. So it's that same symbol down here. I could have dragged it across, but if we select that one, it's actually on layer Temp. And this one, let me just size that. I'll scale it down. And if we turn off the symbols layer, which I think is the intention in this template, to just turn off symbols and all the symbols disappear, even though we've made this one and it meets the standard, because we had turned layer Temp on and made it current, it is no longer on the correct layer. So we need to be aware, if we're going to use the system, we need to be aware of the current layer setting when one works. That's not difficult, but it does mean you've got to keep your eye here. So let me turn the symbols layer back on, and now we could remove the Temp layer, but now all symbols are here and they're all on layer symbols. So you'll find, I think, that when you use a template such as this, you will have other layers like dimensioning layers and electrical service and maybe even hardscape layers. So with this system, you've got to be very aware of the current layer when you bring a symbol in, whereas if you use the gCADPlus library gCADPlus, the standard ones, let's just grab one at random here and we insert it into the drawing. Can you say it makes the layer as it goes in? And no matter what you do and whatever layer is current, that symbol can be turned on and off using the layers switch. We can turn the symbol layer off there. It disappears when all of the others stay. Now, remembering here that the aim was to have a set of symbols and to be consistent, such that if I copy a symbol, let's pick this one and copy it and bounce it into my design, then all symbols in this case will be on layer symbols, and we can control. Let's go to the layers here. In an ideal world, you only have layer 0 and layer symbols. I've created this temp layer at the moment and made it current to illustrate what I want to say, and that is that provided this user always copies from the set of sample symbols on the right, everything will work fine. If we come into layers and turn off our symbols layer, all of those symbols will disappear. Let's put that layer back on. If, however, he uses the blocks command and picks one of the symbols here, let's say this grass symbol, and inserts it into the drawing, so I'm not dragging it or copying it, I'm bringing it from the, let's pop it in here and let's zoom in a little. So I've inserted that using the blocks command. Now you would think that if I go to layers and turn off the symbols layer, that symbol will disappear, but it doesn't, and that would create difficulty, I think. The way around it, the way to deal with it, is to pick that little symbol and edit it and move everything in the symbol onto a layer called symbols. Because remember, that's the aim here. And now when we close the block editor, now things are behaving normally. We can go to the layer command, turn off the symbols layer, and all the landscape symbols disappear. So by doing some fairly hard work, we've actually made a whole set of symbols that look and behave like the standard ones that come with gCADPlus, except that they are now on a layer called symbols rather than on a layer called LPLNT symbols. So I hope that further helps in explaining how blocks work in the gCADPlus environment, how symbols, in creating symbols and making your own, you have to be a bit careful.